bit of a delay, but we are ready to go. Okay, so this is an open call-in for anyone who wants to join us. I am joined by our lovely guest here. I'll let him introduce himself and let him know where to find you guys.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. Just posted on my community page telling all Muslims to come over here and bring your best arguments. I am Thaddeus from Reasoned Answers is my YouTube channel. Love to have these open discussions. Love to speak freely, honestly, with anyone who wants to bring an opposing worldview, because I believe that Christianity is the truth and can stand up to scrutiny.
Fantastic. So that's our job today. Mad echo. I'm not hearing echo. Let me know if anyone else hears an echo and from whom. So if you guys want to join us, the link is in the live chat right there. And we are just going to roll on with it. So I'm going to ask my guest here. So what have you been working on your channel that you'd like to share with everyone here?
Yeah, so lately we have, me and Mary Harp have been going through the life of Muhammad, kind of looking at the historical reality. She's been doing a lot of analysis of what you find in the Quran, what the author, which we all know was not Allah, was doing in the writings found therein. And we've been having some good opportunities to expose Islam in that way. I've also done a couple live streams recently where I react to Muslim videos, and I'm doing one of those tomorrow as well. Now, strangely, I put out a challenge on my community page. You know, Muslims come to the chat and they tell me how their videos increase their imam or how I'm lying or whatever. And I challenge them to have live chats. Basically, never do I get a taker on that. So, you know, maybe people are just too shy, like the prophet was very shy, too shy to come in and have a live chat. So I said, all you have to do is post a link to a video that you think is really good dawah, and I'll play it for all my audience. And no takers, no takers. No Muslims think that there are any good dawah videos out there, I guess.
Well, that would be because there really aren't. They really aren't that good. If you haven't noticed, definitely Ali Dawah has been going downhill, grasping at any straw he can find to make a video on.
Yeah, you know, I just keep hearing about how everyone's converting to Islam, and there's so many powerful arguments, and how I'm a complete joke. Never get any responses to any of my arguments, never get any counter arguments, just all this posturing. And that seems to be all Islam apologetics amounts to these days, is whoever can posture the best, whoever can thump their chest the hardest. That is what counts. Facts don't matter.
Absolutely. Now, I have invited a few Muslims from the chats underneath my videos to this live stream, specifically ones who've said along the lines of, you've insulted the last prophet and the messenger of Allah. I am not leaving you. And then I was like, okay, well, that doesn't seem like a bad one. So I go ahead and reply, well, you're welcome to stay. I think he meant as an insult, you're welcome to stay. And then he condemns me for saying it. And I said, okay, fine. Come on up here and let's talk. Let's have a discussion. So that is cool. We'll see if any Muslims want to come up. Now, this isn't limited to Muslims, Christians, anyone can come up. This is just an open Q&A platform. We're just here to have a discussion. Open to anyone who wants to join. So everyone is welcome. Let's see here. There we go. So while we're waiting, there's some hadith that were quite interesting that I've come across. I read, and it seems that Muslims don't really understand this too often. That's there. Let me ask you, Thaddeus, in your experience, if I were to say someone in Islam was to give someone else, guarantee them paradise, who would that be in Islam, according to the Muslims and Muslim scholars?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to have to be Muhammad. I mean, who else could possibly do that, right? I mean,
Exactly. I
I
mean, a
wouldn't think
lot
like
of
Aisha could guarantee anyone paradise, for example.
no, Aisha definitely could not. It'd have to be Muhammad himself. Now, this is again coming from the same guy who said that he doesn't know what's going to happen to himself, nor you. But yet he can guarantee paradise to people. That's a little confusing to me. It's one or the other, guys. Come on, pick one.
Well, see, maybe he originally wasn't allowed to guarantee paradise, and then Allah granted him that privilege because he's like, you know what, you're being such a good prophet. I'm going to override my own rule, my own authority, my own exclusive judgment on heaven and hell, and allow you, Muhammad, to make that decision for me.
So guaranteeing people heaven in paradise if they do a couple of things, right? So I'm going to pull up a couple of hadith that talk about this specifically, about what Allah is guaranteeing, how he's guaranteeing it, and what the steps are, you know, to get this guaranteed trip to paradise. So
Yeah,
again, this is coming from Allah's messenger,
right?
not Allah himself. So he says, you know, Allah's messenger says he guarantees a house in Jannah for one who gives up an argument, even if he's in the right. So if you just give up on your arguments, you get a house in paradise, guaranteed, signed, sealed, and delivered by Muhammad himself. That doesn't seem that hard. I mean, it doesn't put a restriction on that house, the type of argument, right? I mean, you guys could be arguing over which breakfast cereal is the best, and you just say, you know what, I think I'm still right, but you know what, I'm going to give up the argument, and boom, I get an entire house in paradise for just giving up that argument, guaranteed by Muhammad. That seems rather easy.
Yeah, I'd imagine nearly all people have given up on an argument at some point.
Well, he goes further. He guarantees a house in the middle of Jannah for one who abandons lying, even for the sake of fun. That tells you a little bit about Muhammad, though. So, in order to do this, you would have to enjoy lying to people, and you give it up, even if you loved lying for fun, and you get a free house in the middle. But let's say you want one in the highest part of Jannah. Well, there's one for that. It's guaranteed to someone who has good manners. So if you have good manners, guaranteed house in paradise by Muhammad himself. Again, I've had many Muslims tell me that the only one who can actually guarantee you entrance into heaven is Allah himself. But here's Muhammad saying, I'll give it to you anyway.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. So I was going to suggest to our Dawa boys that there's some real good advice here. You know, just give up on your YouTube channels and you'll get, well, not just into Jannah, right? But you'll get in the middle for sure, because we all know that you are definitely lying in your videos. You do that. Even if you're right, like even if you truly believe that Allah has asked you to do this, you still get this benefit. But there is this other one here that I guess they don't really have to do that, because good manners, whatever that means, is the highest thing, right? Apparently this is the very best thing according to Muhammad, and in theory Allah. The very best thing in this entire world you can do is not like, you know, save someone's life or something like that. It's be kind, have good manners, don't talk with food in your mouth, stuff like that. Weird religion.
So that's not the only ones, but those are some of the, I mean, those are pretty easy ways to get into heaven there.
Yeah, like I said, I'm
Pretty
sure
simple.
everyone's given up on an argument. Like, it's not worth it. I'm not going to argue anymore. You're wrong, but it's not worth me continuing. It's a waste of my time. Hey, you just heard passages to Jada. I did? Well, according to Muhammad, apparently, yes.
Yeah, so it doesn't say that you'll get like one house. It says you give up an argument equals a house. So if I gave up on like 5 arguments, even though I think that I'm correct, I get 5 houses.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good investment, man. Going to real estate here pretty quick in Jenna. But that's not, of course, that's not the only reason. There's even a more interesting way and a quicker way. And now someone might point out and say, oh no, this might not be, this might not be Sahih. This might not be Sahih. So let's go to Sahih, where Muhammad is again guaranteeing people places in paradise for some sort of act. So Thaddeus, if you wouldn't mind, just go ahead. Let me zoom up a bit more on this here. There we go. So this is Muhammad speaking himself.
All right. So the messenger of Allah said, whoever guarantees for me what is between his jaws and what is between his legs, I shall guarantee paradise for him. Oh my.
Okay. So on your quick rundown of this, I'm just going to ask for your first impressions because I did not tell you ahead of time that we're going to be doing this. What's your impression?
So I guess between his jaws is going to be his tongue. So like whoever guarantees that he'll speak on my behalf, remember not on Allah's behalf, but Muhammad's. So whoever guarantees his speech for Muhammad is guaranteed into paradise. That's pretty disturbing to me. But in comparison to the second half, you can be forgiven for forgetting that part even exists, because the second part here seems to be suggesting whoever guarantees their private parts for Muhammad is guaranteed entry into paradise. No, Muhammad, you can't have that. Sorry.
I think this right here is more interesting to me because again, jaw. So I mean, it's a well-known fact that you'd like to suck on little boys' tongues. It's not something that's too far out there. So putting it in context with both sides being kind of relevant to the same topic, it looks pretty bad. And this is what's the worst part right here.
Yeah.
What is between not her legs, his legs? Just saying, and he guarantees, again, Muhammad guarantees him paradise.
Yeah, I don't know what Muhammad was thinking here, but it's not that hard to read this as entirely sexual, as you kind of just pointed out there. That whoever performs for Muhammad, whether with their mouth or with other body parts, he says, "Good. I enjoyed that. Welcome to paradise."
Yeah, I have a hard time reading anything else into this. This whole puts a whole nother level to the whole Dija thing, right? Ooh, boy. So, but they might just say, now, granted, this one again is Sahih. That is the grade. But maybe they don't like this just being all by its little lonesome. Maybe they want another one.
Well, see, we have to read the context. We can't just take this one sentence out of its context, even though that's quite literally what a hadith is a saying of Muhammad with no context. We can't take it out of the context. We got to look at the entire career of Muhammad, right?
Yes. And that's where we get to the little boys and sucking on the tongues of little boys, as well as other parts. And we start seeing that clarify. It gets worse. This is the part where Muslims should say, we want less context, because the more context makes it look worse. The more you dig, the worse it gets. So then we have this part, and this is the scholars even tried to save it on this one, but it actually makes it even worse.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's the same sort of thing. Muhammad's talking. He says, whoever guarantees me the chastity of what is between his legs, i.e., just to make sure you guys understand, the Muslim scholar thinks you need to make sure you know this, his private parts,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever is between his jaws, i.e., his tongue, I guarantee him paradise. I mean, even if you took out the scholar notes there, the parentheses, it looks bad. You add them in, it looks worse.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of the spin that they want to put on this, right? Like, I guess someone pledges not to do any sinful acts to Muhammad, making him God, then they're guaranteed paradise. I don't know. And again, Muhammad is the one guaranteeing paradise, not Allah. It doesn't say, I guarantee Allah will admit you to paradise. It says, I guarantee him paradise. He's the one directly guaranteeing paradise for an action done to Muhammad. So even in like the imaginary, very generous view of whatever Muslims try to imagine this means in their mind, it's still going directly to Muhammad. It's something for his benefit. And then he gives you paradise. Could it be any more obvious who your God is?
Okay, so I don't know. Maybe let me try this. Because I want to try to give this the best spin imaginable. So, whomever guarantees me the see, it's just talking about them being chaste. So, if they promise to be chaste and promise only to talk what Allah says, then they're guaranteed paradise. The problem with that is you have to ignore who's talking.
Mm-hmm.
Because whenever according to the Hadith or according to the Quran, it's normally Muhammad says, Allah told me this, or Allah is the one directing me to say this. No, this is him saying, whoever guarantees me it. And this is pretty cut right. This is Sahih al-Bukhari 6807. So I mean, if you take the Hadith, you have to take this Hadith.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Do you see any way around this?
I do not see any way around the deification of Muhammad, even if someone wants to try to imagine that this isn't really about your literal private parts, that's like symbolic and some sort of metaphor. Not justified, but even if you imagine it that way, it still deifies Muhammad. There's no way around that. Maybe some Muslim watching now or later can come up with something, but I can't see any way around this deifying Muhammad. No matter how much you imagine what these words are supposed to mean, and ignore the literal context, which seems to be Muhammad talking about people performing sexual favors, I don't see any way it's anything but Muhammad being the judge on who gets into paradise.
No, yeah, so in context with other hadith, definitely some mutawatir hadith that talk about Muslims being instructed to pray to Muhammad directly for intercession with Allah, it's a bit of an issue here. It just does not seem to have any way around this deifying Muhammad. So, again, Muslims in the chat, is this your ideal man? I mean, I know in Islam, homosexuality is punishable by, execution. And here you go. Your ideal man is very obviously at least alluding to it very clearly. Mm-hmm. And even if he's not, he's committing shirk. Because he's putting himself in the place, doing something that it seems that Allah would be the only one able to do to guarantee people into paradise. I mean, I guess they could point and say, well, you see, we believe that Jesus is a prophet and Jesus guaranteed, heaven to the man on the cross. I guess that would be the only sort of comeback they might have. But Thaddeus, do you see the issue with that?
Yeah, I mean, Muhammad's not exactly perfect. And he's certainly not supposed to be divine or semi-divine or anything like that in Islam. Now, I'm not talking about de facto. I'm talking about what they claim, what they're supposed to believe. Just doesn't seem to work. But see, Jesus in Christianity is fully divine, is God incarnate. So if you're going to try to draw a comparison as a Muslim, you're saying, well, Christians believe this about Jesus. Yeah, because we believe Jesus is God, not because we worship a human being.
Exactly. Now, they could say, well, we still believe he's a prophet, and we believe he did this. Well, if you try to claim that, then you claim that Jesus was on the cross, because that's the context, was Jesus was on the cross, dying for the sins of the world when he did this. So, not really apples to apples there, and you kind of defeat yourself with that argument. I just know because I'm pretty sure I'll probably see that in the chat of this video after we're done. If I don't,
yeah, I think you're probably right, because that seems to be the go-to. Is like whenever we point out Muslims deifying Muhammad, they'll be like, Christians deify Jesus, and we're like, yeah, because he's God.
Yeah, we believe he's God. The difference is with Muhammad, you believe he's a human. We believe he's a human. We would agree on that topic, that he's a human. We don't agree on him being a prophet, but we agree upon him being a human being only. Now, if you were saying that Muhammad was Allah in the flesh, okay, then I could kind of see the point of you praying to Muhammad. I could kind of see, from at least from your perspective, I would still think it's wrong, but I could see from your perspective that. But you guys don't. So, yeah, a bit of an issue there.
Mm-hmm.
So, Muslims, if you want to defend the honor of Muhammad, I mean, that's pretty easy. Come on up here. Just click on the link. This is an open live stream to anyone. Anyone is welcome to join us. And we'll just go down the conversation. I'm just pulling up some hadith, some references while waiting.
Mm-hmm. So did see an interesting comment there from Morkay, but Muhammad could not guarantee the chastity was between his legs. Well, but you see, Muhammad was allowed to have unlimited wives and unlimited sex slaves and unlimited concubines. So it's all right, right? He didn't do anything wrong. He completely controlled all his lustful desires by getting as many women as he could.
Absolutely. He could get anyone or any lady he could through various means. And then if you question it, it's just the angel Gabriel visiting me. That's all. Mm-hmm. Please ignore the man sneaking out the window. That is so totally not Dija.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I didn't even address that one, but that didn't happen. That's just a Christian rumor or something. It was just the angel Gabriel. Sorry, not Christian. A Jew made up that story, I'm sure. Made up that story about Dija sneaking out of Muhammad's bedroom when it was really just the angel Gabriel who, got in the house somehow and then left somehow and looked exactly like Dija, but that's just because Dija was so beautiful and angels are beautiful too.
Ah, yes, that must be the reason.
Mm-hmm.
Must be.
And all these Islamophobes inventing this. I mean, sheesh.
So,
like
we had
Mr.
a question
Bakari,
why,
for example, Islamophobe.
Yep. Can't wait. Why has David Wood not mentioned these hadith? Maybe he has. I don't think he has yet. He might be saving them. I don't know.
I think he did do one on the between the legs. Now, the other one, I don't think he did. But the between the legs, I think he titled it something, years ago, but something along the lines of like the secret way into paradise that 99.9% of Muslims don't know about, something like that.
See, there you go. So you actually do have it. He actually has covered it in the past, which works out, I guess. So, but a lot of Muslims still do not know this. A lot of Muslims still don't know that they are allowed to pray to Muhammad for intercession. Still waiting on them catching up with that, as well as the multiple variants of Quran manuscripts that we have out there that actually changed the meaning of the passage itself. Again, mine is my favorite's the history one.
I do think we need to remind David of this because lately he has been indirectly pushing the idea of Muhammad practicing same-sex relations. And I think that he did not have that spin on it at the time, but I think if we reminded him of this, he might start talking about it more. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that he's addressing this to the male audience, the Muhammad is. There's really no way around that unless they say, well, it's meant as a general statement to everyone. That would still be the same issue. You would just throw women in there too.
Yeah, I mean, you might get around the homosexuality if it's for all audiences, but you don't get around the deification.
Well, even if it is just for all audiences, and they're like, well, he's just referring to all audiences this way for this passage. It would still apply to males.
Yep.
You would just have both, which is the issue. Just looking at some of the other things. Keep David Wood right. Okay. There's just a lot of hadith and a lot of sources out there. Try to keep all these balanced in your head. It's a lot. So, well, moving on to another way that Muslims are guaranteed to enter into paradise. There's another way here, which is really rather interesting because it kind of sounds almost Christian-y in a lot of ways. This is substitutional atonement. Thaddeus, if you wouldn't mind taking this one.
Absolutely. Allah's messenger said, when it will be the day of resurrection, Allah would deliver to every Muslim, a Jew or a Christian, and say, this is your rescue from hellfire.
So wait. So he's just according to this, it sounds like he's just grabbing random Jews or a Christian, so a random Jew or a Christian, throwing them into hell for the sins of a Muslim. Well, so this is part A.
As I said, that's a little vague. What else do we got?
We got part B. So this is continuing the same thing.
On the authority of his father, claimed that Allah's messenger said, no Muslim would die, but Allah would admit in his stead a Jew or a Christian in hellfire. Umar bin Abd al-Aziz took an oath, by one besides whom there is no God but he, thrice that his father had narrated that to him from Allah's messenger. So he wants you to, this is odd, first of all. This isn't the normal way a hadith is phrased, right? There's not usually someone taking an oath that this is a legitimate hadith. Apparently, this hadith is so important that we need this proof that it is legitimate from Muhammad. And what Muhammad said is that every single time, no exceptions, when a Muslim dies, they would go to hell but they won't because Allah will send a Jew or a Christian there instead. Implying that the Jew or Christian has earned paradise or earned heaven, the Muslim has earned hellfire, and he flip-flops them. That's what the Hadith implies here.
So yeah, so that's interesting. So if we take this in context with the Quran, where it specifically says that no bearer of burdens will bear the burden of another, say, okay, so no one that has sin will bear the sin of another. Mm-hmm. Okay, that seems pretty straightforward to me. And then we go to this hadith. Again, this is Sahih Muslim, so this is Sahih Hadith. It specifically says that, oh, these Christians will bear the burdens. Mm-hmm. If I wanted to keep this logical consistency, so keeping this consistent with the Quran, I would come to the only solution I can come to, which Christians and Jews are sinless.
Yeah, I would have to say that would seem to be the only way that this can logically be compatible with what's in the Quran, where it says that no bearer of sins can bear the burdens of another. The only way the Jew or Christian could bear the sins of the Muslims and thus get hellfire instead of them is if they were sinless. So apparently, according to Allah, all Jews and Christians, or sorry, not according to Allah, according to Muhammad, who's in theory speaking on behalf of Allah, that all Jews and Christians are, well, maybe not all, right? But at least a sufficient number of Jews and Christians are without sin, such that there is at least one of them for every Muslim. And since all Muslims get into paradise, all real Muslims, whatever that means, but all real Muslims get into paradise, they do have sins. So Allah says, well, I can only allow in 20,000 people today because 20,000 people without sin died today. So yeah, there's Jews and Christians. I'll just put them in hell and pretend that their lives were actually that Muslim life. Weird stuff.
Well, maybe some Muslim could try to argue that maybe he's not talking about sin itself. Maybe he's talking about some temporary punishment that they're substituting for.
That's kind of fair because the Quran does declare that every single person goes to hell. That there is no one, including all Muslims, who don't go to hell, and then Allah pulls some out. So maybe everyone deserves punishment. Everyone deserves hellfire. But then he just assigns extra hell to the Christians so that the Muslims don't get their hell. I don't know.
Well, then we've got part 3, because he did say that he said it 3 times. So here will be part 3.
Are you saying things are going to get worse here?
Well, maybe.
All
or
right,
just clearer, more context.
Yeah. So it was reported that Allah's messenger said, there would come people amongst the Muslims on the day of resurrection with as heavy sins as a mountain. Sins. And Allah would forgive them, and he would place in their stead the Jews and the Christians. Then we got some follow-up here. Someone says, I do not know as to who it is in doubt. And then someone else says it was Umar bin Abd al-Aziz, whereupon he said, it was your father who narrated to you from Allah's apostle. I said, yes. So basically, again, unusual for a hadith to have this attempt to justify that this is a true hadith. But some people were like, this doesn't make any sense. This isn't compatible with what our scriptures say. Are you sure that Muhammad said that? And like, oh yeah, absolutely. It came from Umar himself. Who would know Muhammad better than Umar? So don't dare doubt this.
Abu Bakr, maybe, or Aisha, or Fatima, or all the people who were actually related.
Very, very high authority here, right?
Close family, but let's say it was high authority. One of the companions. So if this is true, then that's not good. That's substitutionary atonement by random innocent Christians being thrown to hell for the sins of Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
Something that most Muslims complain about Christianity.
I know.
They claim that God just picked Jesus to pay for all of our sins and threw him to hell and sacrificed him brutally, but not pointing out that Jesus willingly went to the cross, acting as if he was an unwilling participant in it. And here we see in their sources unwilling participants being thrown to hell for the sins of Muslims.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it says he forgives them, but then he reassigns the punishment, which is interesting, right? Because Muslims always just say, well, unlike in Christianity, where Jesus has to die for forgiveness of sins, Allah can just forgive sins without any need to punish, except this hadith suggests that he does need to punish, right? The sins do have consequences. And instead of taking them on himself and bearing our burden, he just places them on other people. Very fair system here. You know, where's that scale that most modern Muslims think is the way things work? That, you know, Allah weighs your deeds and and he decides, oh, you know, you passed, you had more good than bad. No. Could it be more clear? This guy's coming, or this group of people, actually. It's not just one guy. A whole bunch of Muslims come, and they're like the worst sinners in the history of the world. They have so many sins that on their little scale, on the one side, there's a few grains of sand, and on the other side, there's an entire mountain. And Allah says, don't worry about it. I'll just take that mountain off, throw it on that Christian scale, and you're good to go because you have a couple grains of sand there. That's enough. You're welcome to paradise.
Yeah, so Thomas Hall points out an interesting point. Wouldn't Christians and Jews be going to hell anyway in Islam? If they're committing shirk, which is what all Muslims seem to claim that Christianity is shirk, then yes. They would already have the heaviest sin imaginable, but yet here's Allah putting on more sin on top of them and throwing them into hell.
Mm-hmm. So, in other words, Christianity is unjust because God takes responsibility and bears our burdens himself, but Islam is just because Allah reassigns your guilt to some random person who had absolutely nothing to do with it. Alhamdulillah.
So let's just think this through. So yeah, that, and you got a judge sitting there who's saying, okay, you've done a crime. Okay, you Christian, you've done a crime. You're going to go. I'm going to give you life in prison. Okay. Muslim comes up. Oh, I see you've done the exact same crime. I'm just going to take your punishment and add it to the Christian's punishment over there. So now he has 2 life sentences, and you can go free.
Mm-hmm.
How is that a just God?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Muslims like to pretend that Christianity is unjust because we have substitutionary atonement, and then we read their texts, and they not only have substitutionary atonement, but it literally makes no sense because it's random human beings atoning for your sins, or at least being assigned the guilt. I guess maybe they're not, like, in some strictly technical sense, atoning for it. They're just being assigned it for no reason. Maybe you're not judged as sinless. Maybe Allah just doesn't care. I don't know. But regardless, the guilt is reassigned to another person, and this is somehow just. Imagine if that's the way it worked in this world, right? So someone's been accused of stealing from a local store, and they go to the judge and be like, yes, I'm guilty. I'm very sorry that I did that. And the judge says, no problem. You, that guy sitting in row 3, you are going to go to jail for this guy's crime. Congratulations, you're free to go. That seems to be what the picture is here.
And that's what we find in Islam here, plain and simple. Let's see. Professor Yaffle there said, in for a penny, in for a pound, as we say here in the UK. Actually, that's also in Americans. We also use that same phrase here in America as well, even though we don't use a pound as currency.
Yeah, even though it makes no sense, we still use it.
But then again, we're Americans, so don't think it through too much on that part. If it sounds good, we're going to use it, even if it doesn't make logical sense. So, yeah, we just...
We're copying Muhammad's
that
example in that sense.
Yeah, just copy and paste it. Just copy and paste it. So, oh, man. So, in order for this to make logical sense, in this Sahih Muslim, again, this is Sahih Muslim 2767. So, it's signed off by Muslim scholars as being reliable hadith. This is a 100% chance that this happened, according to the Muslim scholars. Well, there's some issues with this. Now, I actually had the opportunity to ask a Muslim scholar this, actually at an open debate. And I asked him, he was at a church that they were having this debate, and I asked him, you know, he's supposed to be well-read, he's got a bachelor's degree, he's got all this translation stuff he's done, he's this fantastic scholar. And I asked him about this hadith, and he says he doesn't know anything about this hadith. He claimed that there are too many hadith to know every one of them.
Well, true.
So I just asked him, okay, based upon what is said here, what's your opinion on it? He says, I don't want to give an opinion on it. I'm not going to answer it. It would be unjust for me to answer it. I'm like, you're in front of Christians right now, speaking at a church. This seems to be kind of important for the Christians to know.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't want to give a response, you don't have to give a response, but every Christian's going to look at this and be like, so your entire argument against Christianity is that it's unjust for God to provide atonement for sins. And your solution to that is random human beings provide atonement for other random human beings? How is that an improvement exactly?
Yeah, it seems like it's a step backwards. Actually, what it looks like is human sacrifice. Because you're sacrificing another human being so that you can get forgiveness for your sins. An unwilling participant. We're not talking about someone laying down their life willingly, like we see in Christianity, but we're seeing someone who is being forced into this. I'd say kind of similar to what the Aztecs were doing in Central America. Their human sacrifice is not very nice. So, but let's say for argument's sake, looking at these, we say, okay, in order to make this work with the Quran, we're going to say that these were sinless Christians. I don't know how that works. And sinless Jews, I don't know how that works, because of course they're supposed to be committing shirk just by being Christian. But let's say they were sinless. The problem is Allah doesn't tolerate people who are sinless. As we find out here in this hadith. Again, this is Sahih Muslim 2749.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I just had a pop-up.
Allah's messenger said, by him in whose hand is my life, if you were not to commit sin, Allah would sweep you out of existence, and he would replace those people who would commit sin and seek forgiveness from Allah, and he would have pardoned them. Now, so the translator did have to add some words, since Muhammad apparently forgot to say replaced by. So it sounds like he's replacing the people who commit sin, but he's actually saying replace those who swept out of existence with the people who other people who would commit sin. So theoretically speaking, if there was some person who did not commit any sin, then Allah would be like, what the heck is going on here? I need people to sin. Bye-bye. And create someone else so that they would sin against him. Allah needs people to sin against him. Weird. Allah needs sin.
Yeah, so he needs sin, and he needs those people to repent from that sin and turn back to him so that then he can forgive them. One, this is it. There's so many things that this opens up. It's so many issues. First of all, our assumptions on the other hadith that we looked at can't be right because those Christians and Jews could not be sinless because Allah would have wiped them out and replaced them with people who would commit sin. So people who would bear the burdens.
I have a theory here. Maybe
Go
that's
ahead.
how he sweeps them out of existence, is by putting the sins of the Muslims upon them as he throws them into hell.
Maybe at that point, maybe that's how he does it. But then again, there's another issue with this, which is it paints a picture of a God who needs, not wants to do something, but needs. So much that he would wipe them out just so sin will happen. So remind me, Thaddeus, if you were to do something according to Islam, if you were a Muslim and you were to do something that would lead someone else to commit a sin, would you not bear part of that burden yourself?
Yeah, according to Islamic doctrine, that is 100% correct. Works both ways, which Muslim preachers are very eager to tell us when they're asking for donations. So, make a donation to build a mosque and it causes someone else to come to Islam, you get the credit. But it does work on the negative side as well. You do something that causes someone else to sin and they are guilty, but so are you. So, you set a bad example by taking off your hijab and someone else takes off the hijab, you're doubly guilty, not just guilty for your own sin. Which means, I know you're getting it, which means Allah is responsible, right? He bears guilt according to Islamic doctrine.
Yeah, so Allah would be a sinner according to this. And I mean, we've examined multiple ways that he could get into paradise himself, but if
maybe Allah needs to do some favors for Muhammad so Muhammad can allow Allah into paradise.
So in other words, that wasn't Dija, that was actually Allah.
Maybe.
That would make sense. That's why he was blaming Gabriel. He was just confused. I see. Yes, the issue is we're not making this stuff up. I mean, anyone that saw the video that I did with John, where I made up, where we did like anime tests, it's some silly thing that we did, where I read off a description of either real anime or fake anime, and I just made up an anime that might sound real. Sounds pretty it ended up sounding pretty convincing and ended up being able to fool quite a few experts in the field as well. So it would be hard to make up something better than this, is my point. It doesn't take much to make up something better that is more cohesive than this driveling nonsense.
Yeah, and that Muslim scholar, right? Not just some random Muslim on the stream, that Muslim scholar who told you he never heard these hadith. I imagine he probably wasn't lying. I mean, it's a possibility. They just didn't want to answer it, so he pretended he never heard it. But I also wouldn't be surprised to learn that he really did have no idea this was in Islam. And instead of thinking about it, he just waves his hands and says, Islam's good. It doesn't matter how many contradictions there are. It doesn't matter how horrific the theology is if you actually bother to think about it. That's not our job. Our job is to submit and obey and not think ever.
Absolutely. Don't say you believe, say you obey, or whatever it was that Ali Dawah tried to slip in there. Say, don't, the scientific miracles, are all debunked. They're all trash. They've all gone in the garbage bin. They're all like
gone in the bin, not even the recycle bin. You can't even recycle it. It's gone to the waste, like poo. It's
all gone. But yet, just say you believe, because even though he got into Islam with lies, with deception, with manipulation of the facts. Now that you're in, just stay, because it's just keep going.
Yeah, he's like, those lies, and he's like, those lies, and I admit they're lies. They were never true. They got me into Islam, and now I don't need them anymore because I believe. So shame on them for lying to me, but alhamdulillah for them lying to me, because they got me into Islam. Who needs any facts? Who needs any truth? Who needs any of this? You just hear and you obey. And that's exactly the way Muhammad and his sock puppet want it.
Absolutely. Again, we saying that again, according to the Hadith, Muhammad is basically Allah. There's no real difference there. I mean, according to the Hadith, Muhammad could do the same exact things. And even Aisha points it out, saying, "Oh, look, your Lord hastens to fulfill every desire you have." Well, geez, okay, well, if she's hastening there you go. Yes, you've been a member for 12 whole months. Fantastic. Happy birthday to your membership. And to you, I guess, too. Well, since you're in the UK, I don't know.
You. I said very humble, Professor Yaffle there.
Very humble. And you throw your birthday party. So I don't know if you've heard, I've been doing some live streams with Hatum about this topic, but I guess, who was it that they just put in? Now I can't remember his name. I just had it. They just jailed him in the UK. 1 second here. I gotta look this up now. It's a brain fart. But he did the documentary Silenced. I was on with... No, that's not right. Think of a name, but I know it's not the right name. So let's see here. Tommy, is it Tommy Robinson? Did I say that one right? I think I probably got that wrong.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know. But
damn, my brain just doesn't want to work today. I'll remember it like 5 seconds after we stop. I'll probably remember it. Yeah, Tommy.
Yeah,
Tommy
yeah.
Robinson.
I just went to the DCCI video, and it does say Tommy Robinson is the one who made that documentary. So I wasn't sure. Like, I know who Tommy Robinson is, but I wasn't sure about that particular documentary, so I didn't want to comment. But that does appear to be correct.
Really good, fantastic documentary. Recommend people watch it. I'd recommend you download it. You can find it off his X account. He was sentenced, I think, 18 months. And it's for releasing it. And they said if you take it down, they'll take some time off of it. But he's not going to do that. Yeah, 18 months. In prison for 18 months. And then they said if you take it down, they'll take a couple months off his sentence. So he can get out earlier. But yeah, it's a pretty good documentary. And again, if they didn't make such a big deal about it, I would probably never heard of it. I probably never heard of his name.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't aware of the documentary. I was not aware of any of... I mean, I'm vaguely familiar with the UK situation where they're basically cracking down on anyone who's critical of Islam. Now, I will say that the UK is not the United States. They don't have the same kind of legal protections for speech that we have. So I can't speak to the exact legalities of the situation, but it does definitely seem to be a double standard. So I don't know if the Christians that are being arrested are technically violating some law. I do, however, know that the Muslims are doing the exact same thing and often worse, and they're not facing any punishment for it. So I don't know if it's unjust, technically unjust. I know it's ethically unjust, but I don't know about the legalities. I don't know if it's unjust that the Christians are being arrested or that the Muslims aren't, but it does definitely seem to be a double standard.
Yeah, so what the whole crime is because the judge told him not to release this documentary, basically about what has happened to him, what he found out, why he was looking into this. It was all about a schoolyard fight that got blown out of proportion, where one kid dumped a little bit of water on another kid. I've been to schoolyards before, and let me tell you, that's pretty low key. Get a little wet during the middle of summer. It's not a big deal. But one was white, one wasn't white, one was an immigrant and a refugee. And because of that, the Muslims grabbed it and ran with it. And a lot of the bigger politicians also ran with it, and they got the story completely wrong, flipped on its head. But because Tommy came out and said, hey, this guy doesn't seem to be the best example of a child out there. In fact, he seems to be a bit of a scumbucket. Paraphrasing, not exact quotes. Paraphrasing, he'd probably say something much nicer because he seems to be a very polite British man. He was required to prove that that was actually what happened, and the documentary is basically him trying to prove what he said was true. And it seems that he definitely does it in that documentary.
Or at least provide sufficient evidence that we can say this isn't just a case of him making stuff up, right?
Yeah, I'd definitely say that. Yeah, it definitely seems he had to go. He used hidden cameras to get the evidence out of some people just because they didn't want to. They didn't want to talk about it. There were a lot of people who had signed NDAs who could not talk about what happened at the school. The school was shut down. Large sum of some money were just given over to the lawyers of the immigrant child. So, and then you find out.
Yeah, so I'm starting to get the picture here, right? So some people involved in the situation basically came to an agreement to sweep this under the rug in exchange for some financial benefit, and he revealed that. So I can see why, again, technically legal, this would be an issue, right? That people had come to this agreement and you're revealing it against their wishes. And that's perhaps why the judge said, don't do this. But the ethical reality is that the public needs to know the truth here, right? That we need to know what actually happened as opposed to some convenient cover up that was provided under financial incentive.
Yeah. So it definitely seems funky. Some things that were happening there definitely seemed to be sketchy. Again, the financial cover up was the government was basically paying people to not talk about this subject.
Right. And then the government doesn't, and then the government obviously also controls the court. They don't want people to know that they're bribing people not to talk about it. And so they say, don't do this, or you'll be in trouble. And then, well, you do it anyway and you're in trouble. So again, technically, legally, maybe true, because you're given the warning and you do it anyway and blah, blah, blah. But good for him, being there and saying, I understand that there's going to be this legal consequence. I'm doing it anyway because it's important for people to know the truth.
So I know someone pointed out, I think it was trying to find the comment. I actually don't see it there. But he's put in jail with there it is actually. They put Tommy in prison with jihadis. Please pray for him. He is in danger, and yes, he is. Please keep him in your prayers, and also the fact that he is not saved. So keep that the Lord will call him to himself and that he accepts Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior. Please keep that in prayer too, which also speaks to his desire to get this story out.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point there, right? Because this isn't just like, some religious nut or something, as the media would frame it, some religious nut doing something ridiculous because they hate Islam. But in fact, it's someone who is agnostic, doesn't have a relationship with Christ, and they just believe that this is important information that people need to know.
Yeah. And that's a strong conviction that he's got to have to do that because, Christians, we are called to do that. We have to do that. If we love Christ, we are focused on his eternal kingdom, not on ourselves. He doesn't have that. He has only here and now, this world that he knows. Yeah. Again, strong convictions. Really, really respect him for that. He's being willing to do it. I was hoping that we would see some couple of the Muslims I invited come on up here. No, we're an hour in and they have yet to appear.
Yeah, I know. It's so disappointing. We get all these Muslims who are so bold in the chat and telling us how they are happy that we are going to go to hell and happy about Muslim terrorist attacks. And then when we give them the opportunity to do something as easy as speaking to us, they're too afraid to do it. So allegedly they're going to come kill us, but they can't even be bothered to spend a couple minutes talking to us because they're so scared. Weird.
On top of that, I got Muslim after Muslim saying, I'll debate you. Just tell me when, if you dare to debate me. I'm like, okay, here's the live stream right here, open Q&A. You guys pick the topic. You come up here. You just tell me where you want to go, and we'll go there.
Mm-hmm.
No one shows up.
Yeah, strangely, I don't think I've got many comments like that. Like, you would never debate me on this subject. I'm like, okay, here's my email address. Give me a specific time and place. I'll even do it on a third-party channel if you want. I don't think I've ever gotten a response to one of those. I have had conversations with Muslims. I have had people debate me, but never after making a posturing comment about how I would never debate them, strangely enough.
Almost as if it is a false claim that they don't expect you actually to call them on it. They just expect to be able to beat their chest and say, see, he won't debate me on this. Oh, well, just here's the date, here's the time, show up. I realize you. It's prayer time.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
The whole live stream? It's just prayer time?
Then why are you in the comments writing comments?
Not that we haven't heard that before.
Yeah, that was definitely my favorite.
It's prayer time. I'm going to go pray.
Yeah, same idea. I told a particular Muslim that's been commenting on my videos for years now. Like one of the first times I saw him, like, come talk to me live. He's like, I can't. It's 2 p.m. where I am. I'm like, okay, what's a good time? And he did say what a good time would be. I don't know what the significance of it being 2 p.m. was. Like, that's somehow inherently a bad time. But I said, okay, what time is good for you? I'll even do it in the middle of the night for me. I'll get up at 4 a.m. to have this conversation with you if it's the only time you're available. And silence, but then continue to comment. Recently, like within the last couple of weeks, I kept asking him, when are we going to have a debate? He kept saying soon. Recently, I asked him again. He finally admitted that he never had any intention to ever debate me. He's like, I'm too shy for that.
Don't challenge. Don't threaten to step up to the plate and say, I'll take you on. Oh, no. Tell you the truth, Muslims, what that does for your position That makes you look weak and pathetic. It makes me think that you have nothing to your religion. They have nothing behind your faith. Well, I do know there's nothing behind your faith. But you're just confirming what I already know about it. So I'll throw this one at you because this is one that I've heard a lot, definitely recently. It seems to be making its rounds again. It seems to be an older argument, but they're going back to it. Keep bringing it up. So they claim that in the Bible, Rebecca was 3 years old. Did you know that?
Yeah. I've certainly heard that claim so many times. And interestingly, no matter what topic I'm discussing, it could be a topic not even related to Muhammad. Someone will generally come into the comments and be like, Muhammad was not a pedophile. Like, because it's the only subject that they think they know how to answer, right? And their answer, among other things, but that's probably their number one answer, is that Rebecca was 3.
Yeah, that's their go-to. And if you guys, this comes from Genesis 15:22. If you guys read the story, this is why I keep asking, have you ever actually read it? Have you looked at what you're saying a 3-year-old is capable of doing? No, you haven't. I have kids. I know what a 3-year-old can and cannot do. What a 3-year-old can't do is carry a 75-pound container of water on their shoulder. They can't do that. It's not physically possible. Let alone feed all those.
She was in the hot desert heat, and when you're in the hot desert heat, your body matures much faster. So who knows?
That's what they claim. They keep trying to claim that.
Of course, there's zero scientific evidence of that, but
So one of the most interesting hadith about Aisha's age for me, and let me see if I can grab this real quick. I didn't have this prepared, but I might as well just throw it on up there because, again, we're just chilling, talking about it. So let me make sure this one is correct. Nope, that one is not the one I was looking for. This is the one that Aisha's there playing with dolls. That's one right here. Share this one instead. So this one again is Sahih al-Bukhari. Add it to the screen right there. We're specifically talking about Muhammad and that Aisha would play with dolls. And then the one who put this hadith together believed that you guys need to understand this part right here. And the only reason to put this in is because it wouldn't be normal in the culture. So whenever they claim that, oh, look, Muhammad married a 9-year-old prepubescent girl, and consummated the marriage with her when she was 9, and again, still prepubescent, but that was commonplace. It was normal. If it is normal, you don't need to add clarification on why it's okay. And here's where he's talking about, because if it's normal, that a 9-year-old would still be playing with dolls, and after being married and consummating the marriage, then he wouldn't have to put this section in clarifying that she could play with dolls. I know they're forbidden, but it was allowed for Aisha at that time, as she was a little girl, not yet reached the age of puberty. So I know they like to go to this, but
yeah, it's definitely very interesting there, because what I often hear, like if we raise this as an example, that they don't get it, right? They don't think about the part that the person is trying to defend in the parentheses here. But there's like, in the United States, grown women play with dolls all the time, so this doesn't mean anything. Yeah, except the you got this note, right, that the playing of dolls and similar images is forbidden for adults, but it's allowed for Aisha because she was a little girl not yet reaching the age of puberty. And notice the excuse they don't give, right? They don't say it was allowed for Aisha because this rule had not yet been revealed. Allah had not yet sent down this command or whatever. If they were trying to justify it, right, like trying to justify it after the fact, and they knew that Aisha was an adult, that's probably what they would have said. But they know she's a prepubescent girl, so they go to that as the explanation. And I will say that this is consistent with Islamic doctrine. This does make Aisha not in the wrong here, because even though the reason you're not supposed to play with dolls is because they bear a human image, they bear an image of something that has a soul, and that's akin to idol worship. Apparently that's allowed if you are a child in Islam. And therefore, she was a child. It's all good. Problem solved. There is nothing immoral with Aisha here. They're not even considering the possibility that there'd be something wrong with Muhammad having sex with a prepubescent girl, because there was nothing wrong with that in their minds, because they all knew that's what Muhammad had done, and he was the perfect example to follow.
Yeah. Oh, but yet they'll try to throw Rebecca under it, or try to claim that Lot is one of our prophets. And because he slept with his daughters, see? Well, technically he wasn't actually like capable of. In fact, they specifically got him drunk in order to get him into a state where they could take advantage of him. So it's not like Lot willingly did this process. But on top of that, it was because of sin that they were even there to begin with. They didn't listen to what God told them to do, and they went off on their own, under their own control, and that led to this situation. So the only way you could believe that is if you guys haven't read it. And my reference, again, would be read the sources yourself. Actually do the work yourself. Don't rely on what someone else has just randomly said. Look into the sources. That's why we give all of our references. That's why everything is there that you guys can take a look at, investigate yourselves. And hey, if we got something wrong, come back here and correct us. I am open to correction, but please bring the sources. Don't just make empty claims and then say, well, you see, Jesus said that he wasn't the prophet that they were waiting for. Where exactly did he say that? Well, don't you know? I don't know what verse you're trying to refer to. I don't know what's going on in your head. I can't answer that question. That's why I asked you. Yes, that is a conversation I've had in the comments section below. It's like, okay, if you make a claim, give me a reference. We can examine what is actually there and see the entire context.
Yeah, because no matter how much they claim to have read the Bible, which I have plenty of Muslims like come in and say they've read the Bible and that's how they know all these things. They all seem to repeat the exact same lines and don't even know where they come from most of the time. They haven't bothered to memorize what they're supposed to say. And they certainly have no clue about the context. You go and you read the context for them if they're able to come up with the line, and they don't have anything to say about it. So I have this one particular Muslim who's been challenging me for, who I've had many conversations with where he called in, but he kept challenging me to have a discussion on, does the Bible teach that Jesus is God? No idea why he picked that as a topic, but I knew what he was expecting, right? He would expect me to go to particular proof texts. So instead of what I did is I just started with Matthew 1:1 and started reading straight through it. And he had no comment on any of the verses. He had no clue what any of the verses were about or anything. He just kept having to say, yeah, we Muslims agree with that. Like every time I would say what the text is about, because he literally had never heard any of these words before, despite claiming that he had read the Bible many times.
Yeah, I remember having on a Bible scholar, he claimed to be, but yet didn't know that Hebrews was a book in the Bible. I remember pulling up a reference. I forget what part it was, but I pulled a part of Hebrews and like, that's not even in the Bible. That's not a book of the Bible. Dude, you're the one claiming to know this completely. It's pretty simple. You should definitely know if Hebrews is a book in the Bible or not if you're claiming to be a Bible scholar.
Yeah, that reminds me of a debate that I had. Well, I mean, not a formal debate, but a conversation I had with Safraz. Remember Safraz? He gave up on the Dawa game. He's left the Dawa game, but a conversation I had with him. He claimed to have studied Isaiah 42 for 10 years. That he had been reading scholarly sources and blah, blah, blah on Isaiah 42, and he was one of the world's greatest experts on it. And he did not know what designation is given to that in 3 other passages in Isaiah. He didn't know it was a servant song. He couldn't tell me what, nor could he tell me what the context is, like what happens in Isaiah 41. No clue it was in Isaiah 41. Now, Isaiah 42 directly draws on what's in Isaiah 40 and 41, like word for word draws on what's in those passages. But he had no clue what was in Isaiah 40 or 41. He had no idea what was there, didn't know how it could possibly relate. And then, of course, as we went line by line, he had no idea what any of the lines meant other than what his script told him. 10 years of study and didn't know what the passage is called.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with studying things for a long period of time. But that passage, it's pretty deep, but it's not like 10 years worth of study needed. It's pretty straightforward. Just like any part of the Bible. Now, if you told me you studied the Bible for 10 years, I'm like, okay, yeah, I could definitely see you needing to chew on it for 10 years plus. Just the entire thing together. Okay. But if you study, yeah, guys, please just don't make false claims like this. Don't make false claims because it makes your positions look so weak. Don't challenge us to debates and then don't show up. We've challenged us to debates. Now, I've had Muslims who've challenged me to have discussions and have showed up, and kudos to them for following through. Congratulations. Fantastic. Had a great conversation with a young Muslim not too long ago about the age of Aisha and that she was prepubescent. And he thought, absolutely not. No, Aisha was not. She was much older. And I showed him the sources. And that's where the conversation went. But it's okay to say, well, I don't know, but this is what I think this says. Okay, let's look at the reference. And we actually read what is there and see if your claim is true. And if your claim is true, then we need to look into it deeper and have a good conversation about that. Would be fantastic. That's great. What's not great is false bluster.
You telling me that Muslims are not having their imam increased by our videos? Because I mean, I get that all the time, and that'd just be so devastating.
I doubt that is the case. I know I get those comments too. It's like, my imam this has strengthened my belief in Islam. And it's like, you are aware this is a video about Muhammad sucking on little boys' tongues. And you're telling me this strengthened your belief in Islam? Okay. I think we might need to talk to social services here.
Right. They're obviously just leaving the comment without having watched any of the video. But my personal favorite comment when they do that is like, everything in this video is a lie. And the video is literally me reading a passage out of the Quran. I always reply back, I agree, but I only read the Quran. So why are you a Muslim?
I'm lagging or something going on here. I think one of the most popular videos I have out right now is where I prove that Muhammad being just point for point. He says this is what a false prophet's going to do. Boom, 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 boom. And they're all false. They all line up with Muhammad. And I've got so many Muslims on there agreeing with me that that's the case. There we go. Okay. Don't know. Funkiness. Okay. So yeah, that's the most popular video I have out currently. Is the one where I do that deep dive in there, and it's, I got a lot of Muslims agreeing with me.
That reminds me of someone who was commenting on a David Wood live stream years ago, but David was talking about how Muhammad was a false prophet, and the guy just kept saying, see, David admits Muhammad was a prophet. He said he's a prophet. Yes, he's a prophet of a demon. Alhamdulillah, he says that Muhammad's a prophet.
Yeah, get the whole sentence. Take in everything that's there, not just what you want to hear. Talk about selective hearing. I mean, my wife will claim that I have selective hearing sometimes, but that's some real selective hearing.
And the sad thing is, I think the guy was 100% serious. Like, all he cared is that David said he was a prophet. He didn't care that David said he was a prophet of a false god. He just said that he was a prophet, and that was good enough for him. Hey, look, it's Wad. I'm going to bet you $1,000 that Wad will not come up and talk to us live. But don't take that.
This whole live stream's here just for you, man. Come up and join. Says Carol says, how can you argue with that level of stupidity? It's really annoying when you give them the sources and then, yeah, no, they don't care. I mean, this literally is just, this live stream is literally you guys pick the topic. Mm-hmm. So where you guys want to go. You think this would be like the place Muslims would want to, the type of live stream Muslims would want to jump onto? Not about a specific topic, but they get to pick wherever they want to go. It seems to be tailor-made to you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have absolute control, right? They could come in, they could ask us whatever proof they have that Christianity is false, or what they proof that Islam is true, or they could give us they could criticize one of our videos and point out where we made all kinds of false statements and lies, but no, nothing.
I would love that.
I bet you someone's going to comment in the comments though and be like, "You guys have been destroyed.
Why do you always do this when Ali Dawa isn't here or Muhammad Hijab's not available? Why do you always do these like I know their schedule." And I just playing out in my head, oh, I know their schedule, so therefore I will do it then, so they won't show up. Guess what, guys? I'm going to tell you a little bit of a secret. If I wanted to join a live stream and talk about something, so there's open Q&A, and I wanted to join, it doesn't matter what time it is. If I really wanted to do it, I'd stay up late, or I'd get up really early, and I would just do it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see if he comes up or not. Hey, buddy, we're just up here chilling.
Just waiting for your genius dawah.
Love to hear what you have to say. In fact, you know what? Like I normally do with these live streams, you come up, I'll ask a couple of quick questions just to establish, like, are you Christian, Muslim? And then what's your question? Mm-hmm. And then I turn it over to you. And you can give me whatever question you want for us to answer. It's very simple. Now, I won't let you go off on some long rant. I'll have to cut you off and say, where's the question in this? But as long as you have a question, go ahead. Like, why do we think Muhammad is a false prophet? Or, I mean, that's pretty basic. Or, why do you think Islam isn't correct? Or, why we believe Christianity. That's something I haven't actually had a question from a Muslim. I don't think ever. Is why we believe Christianity is true. I don't know if I've ever actually had that question from a Muslim. I've asked plenty of Muslims why they believe what they believe. But I don't think they've ever done the reverse.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I ask every single guest on my channel the first time they're on is, why do you believe that Christianity is the truth if they're a Christian? Or why do you believe Islam is the truth if they're a Muslim? And, you know, I mean, there's a variety of answers. I'm not saying every Christian answers the same way, but a good majority is basically it boils down to it's true. I want to follow what's true. And for the Muslims, it's usually something along the lines of, I was born into a Muslim family and I like Islam. Which, I mean, to their credit, at least they're not lying, right? Because that is probably why they are a Muslim. But I've never, like, it doesn't even enter their mind that the reason you should believe something is because it's true. In their mind, the reason you should believe in Islam is because Allah tells you to believe in Islam.
Think of how, think of how shaky that is. I believe it just because I was born into the. I mean, if I as a Christian were to say, well, I was born into a Christian family, and that's why I'm Christian. I said, you're not really Christian then. You can't just inherit it. It needs to be your own decision. You have to make your own choice. And I've not had a Christian tell me that. Well, I was just a Christian. I was born into, a Christian family. Therefore, that's why I'm a Christian. No. Yeah, you could say that that's heavily influenced you. Sure. Having a Christian family have heavily influenced you. Sure. Maybe you were shown the evidence by your family, but there's always something more to it. That's not solely it. And I understand that that's a lot of Islam one of the teachings is that you're born a Muslim. In Christianity, that's not the case. You're not born a Christian. You're born, you have to make the decision yourself. So, I'll pull up some of these. Hey, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Let's see if there's anything else. Do you see anything good there to grab?
No, nothing in particular there. I mean, all we got out of Wad was a smiley face. I mean, I guess that's all he can say is give us a smiley face because he has nothing. Not even in the comments can he come up with any reason why we're wrong or Islam's great or Christianity's false or anything. All he can do is put a smiley face.
Well, a drive-by smiling is not that bad.
No, definitely not. I mean, he could have come in here and said, I'm so glad that Christians are being killed in Pakistan.
Well, when you believe that we are the worst of all creatures and that we are some sort of subhuman, then that would do it. Think of that. It's just your beliefs make you not human, not even valuable. Oh boy.
Yeah, I hate to break this to you, Eric, but you are the worst of all creatures. Allah himself said so.
Well, I am a sinner, so that much I would actually agree with. Saved by grace and not by my own works, that's for sure. Oh boy. Ooh. Not what I deserve at all to be saved by his grace. So. Okay, well, guys. I'm going to be honest. I'm disappointed in you Muslims. Where are all the Muslims at? I know next week I have one that I'm specifically challenging any Muslim with, and I'm hoping to have TikTok up and running again for that. But basically, hey, prove to me that Muhammad is true and I'll convert to Islam. Prove to me that Muhammad is a true prophet of God and I will convert. Because if you can prove that without a shadow of doubt, then Christianity would have to be wrong.
Mm-hmm. And I think you might be onto something there. I think that what we need to do is we need to go live on TikTok, because that's where all the Muslims have run away to. You know, when they target their videos to the main demographic of YouTube, which is like people who are between the age of like 13 and 25, that audience is too sophisticated for their arguments. But over on TikTok, where the main audience is people like 8 to 16, they think that they have a chance of convincing people that Islam is the truth. So you make your own conclusions about what that means about Islam, but there are a lot more people doing dawah on TikTok than on YouTube. I do have to admit.
Now, I've been over there on YouTube and I mean on TikTok, and I have streamed. Now, what I've seen is a lot of times Muslims will try to do dawah here and then run to TikTok, and then because they failed here. So they weren't able to do it here. So they run to TikTok to make quick little cameos and say, see, we're winning over here on TikTok now. We're victorious here. It's like, sorry, that ain't good enough.
And I will say that they do have an advantage on TikTok in that, take your pick whether the platform is biased or just not very sophisticated. But either way, a large false flag campaign does generally get someone shut down on TikTok. So they do have that advantage there, where they can do flag jihad or whatever you want to call it. Whereas on YouTube, for all its faults, they generally are pretty immune to just having a bunch of false flags take something down.
Yeah, so let me see if I can get this going. I'm actually going to see if I can open up TikTok without it lagging me out. So that's the problem. The studio takes up so much bandwidth. It's like, oh, you can only stream to 1 now. I don't know if they increase the requirements or not. So let's give this a shot here and see if we can do that. Because I can do both in theory. I can do both. But we'll see how it actually works in practice. Mm-hmm. So there we go. We should be live on both. So hello, TikTok. Islam is false. Open Q&A. See if that gets anyone. Doubt it, but we'll find out. So hit that for a bit and let that run. So let me ask you, because that is something that's coming up. Why do you believe Islam is false?
Well, you know, that is actually one of the hardest questions, because there's just so many things to pick from. It's hard to pick just one. But I would say probably the number one reason that I would go with off the top of my head is because of the inherent contradictions in the most important claims the Quran makes of itself. That is, one, that it affirms the truth of the Christian and Jewish scriptures when it does not. Two, that the reason you can believe in the Quran is that if it wasn't from God, it would have many contradictions in it. And three, that the other reason you should believe in Islam is that the Quran is such beautiful poetry. All three of those things just totally die, and those are the main reasons why you should believe in Islam, according to the Quran.
Well, even the verse that the Quran claims, it can't be from any other because it does not have any errors, no contradictions within it. That can apply to about anything, though. Because if you're saying that the requirement for something to be from God, for this book here to be from God, is that there are no contradictions within it, the menu at the Chinese restaurant down the street has no contradictions within it. So does that then also qualify this? as well?
Yeah, according to the logic of the Quran, yes. That it is impossible for a human being to write something that doesn't have many contradictions in it.
So I can't write like a science book or a textbook or a math book without it obviously must have contradictions in it, because if not, then the author can't be a human. It must be Allah.
Yep. And remember that the Quran has many, many untestable claims about the supernatural world, the unseen world, whatever. So even a fantasy book, which has untestable claims, is also must have inherent contradiction in it. So if you read Lord of the Rings, there must be many contradictions in it, or it's from Allah.
Well, that's where it comes from. I mean, if you look at the Lord of the Rings, the entire thing, right? It's building an entire world, right? And if there are no contradictions within the Lord of the Rings within itself, so we're not looking at other things outside of the Quran, we're just looking at itself not having contradictions. That's what the claim is. Then you'd be left with the Lord of the Rings have to be authored by Allah, according to the logic of Islam.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually do have quite a bit of people joining, at least on the live stream itself. On TikTok, we'll see how that works. Someone mentioning the sound is bad on TikTok. I don't know. I have no clue about this studio at all. So I am winging this thing on TikTok 100%. So, okay. So that'd be our reasonings. I would definitely say a lot of the false statements, painting a god as this pathetic excuse of an unjust, weak God who needs us, who can't either, according to them, can't enter into creation except for when he does. He doesn't look like anything in creation except for when he does. You've got so many contradictions back and forth, that it just makes no logical sense. On top of that, making Muhammad your ideal when, according to the Quran, he is sinful. But when you look at Jesus, he is not sinful in the Quran, but he's not the ideal. No, a sinful man is the ideal that you need to be like. A man who was a slave trader, who smiled while slaves were being beaten in front of him, who took advantage of a 9-year-old prepubescent child. I mean, all these things are horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
But I got nothing.
Yeah. So that's the thing about the three main claims the Quran makes of itself. One, they wouldn't prove anything, even if they were true. Two, they're false. So the Quran offers invalid claims for itself, like logically invalid claims, because the conclusion doesn't follow from the premise, which then ironically makes them logical errors or contradictions. And then you look at it and you find all kinds of actual contradictions in the text as well. There's so many, right, that Muslims had to invent this doctrine of abrogation to explain why there's all these contradictions in Allah's eternal speech, right? It's not like Allah just came up with this during the life of Muhammad, according to Islamic belief, and thus changed his mind over time. But in fact, he did this from all eternity. He revealed things. In other words, Allah wrote down things or spoke things, or however you want to put it, that he knew were false because he was going to change it later on. Or maybe false is not the right word. That did not match his will because he was going to change it later on anyway. So like he says, for example, that there's much benefit in alcohol. And then he later changes his mind and says that alcohol is from shaitan. Well, which one is it, right? Is it evil to drink alcohol, or is alcohol having much benefit to it? Well, the Muslim will say this is not a contradiction because Allah did reveal both those and he abrogated one. But just think about that, right? Just think about that. If he's revealing the perfect thing, and he, even in the Muslim mindset, right, where, you know, he had to bring the Muslim people along over a period of time, not actually consistent with this being previously revealed to Jews and Christians, but I won't ignore that. Why not just not reveal anything until they were ready to have the command to stop drinking alcohol? Why first reveal do drink alcohol? Because they didn't need to be told to already do what they were doing, right? If they weren't ready, just don't reveal it yet. So it does seem to be an actual contradiction, despite Muslim claims.
Even then, the Muslim claims about that make no sense because they say that, well, it's just a slow, like, Allah's so merciful, he's giving the slow, like, trickle effect so that the Muslims can eventually adopt the correct way. But the issue is where you see that Muslims have invaded nations, it's not the slow trickle. It is a fast, like, you do it or you're dead.
Yep.
You know, one or the other.
Yeah, that is a bit odd, right? That the Arabians of the 7th century, they needed time to adjust to the new commands of Allah. But when those same Arabians invaded other lands, they didn't need any time to convert or adjust, I mean. They just needed a sword put to their throat saying convert or die. Interesting.
Yeah, so that whole like slow integration, I mean, abrogation itself does defeat the whole concept of the Quran itself as well as Islam, because if the concept is, and I've had Muslims tell me this, that Allah has the perfectly preserved Quran up there with him in heaven, well, the problem is it would have abrogated verses inside it.
Mm-hmm.
So if it has always existed, it has always had contradictions in it, and he knowingly revealed the contradictions at given times just so that he could later contradict them and remove them.
Yep. I guess it is kind of consistent with the character of Allah. After all, we discussed earlier how he has to create people who sin because he needs them to sin so that he can forgive them. So I guess he needs to reveal things that are wrong so that he has the opportunity to correct them. So it does actually seem to be consistent. It just doesn't seem to be a picture of a deity. It seems to be the picture of a human being making stuff up as he goes along and coming up with better ideas over time.
Yeah, so the thing that would make sense is I'm flying by the seat of my pants. I can't remember what I said beforehand. So just take whatever I say now. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like a human who doesn't know what the heck they're doing, who can't keep his gosh darn story straight. Maybe, like we read in the Hadith earlier, he might have been one of those who loved to lie for fun and found it fun. And okay, well, if it is the case, then he gets to do this all the time. And then, of course, once he starts getting bigger and starts actually getting called out on giving different revelations, he then says, well, you see, there's different ways of reciting the same thing. Except, again, that doesn't make any sense in context with the story because the guy who confronted him about it knew the dialect. So he would know if that was an issue. C'est la vie. But that is the logic of Al-Islam. Very, very, very crappy. So, do we think Muhammad had res? Riz referring to like having charisma, being able to attract people, not according to the sources that we see, because it wasn't until he started promising money to pay people, said, hey, you can get rich if you follow me, does he actually start getting followers. Beforehand, when he was just preaching by himself, He got some, but not very many. So I wouldn't say that he had a huge amount of charisma.
Yeah, I mean, if we take the biographies of Muhammad seriously, which, you know, we can debate how seriously we should take them, but it's all we have to go on. If we go by those, he preached a message of peace and humility for a decade and got like 10, 20 followers, like constantly preaching this message to everyone he could find. He attracted like 10 or 20 people. Then when they had that group, it was just large enough that they could start attacking caravans and stealing their stuff. And then suddenly Islam started to explode when people said, wait a minute, if I join him, he'll let me attack caravans and I can get rich. And then from there, it just started to snowball. So was it the attraction of Muhammad's message or his character or his personality or his charisma? Or was it the fact that he finally got to the point where he had enough power to make his followers have financial benefit from following him? You let me know.
I mean, if you got to pay people just to get them to follow you, I can't say that you have very much charisma. I'll let you know that I have not paid a single one of my subscribers. Just to let you know.
Yeah, and you've been doing this less than 10 years, I believe, and you have more than 10 followers, so you're way ahead of Muhammad. Now you just need to start bribing people, and you'll be good to go.
I think I'll try to take the slower growth method than bribing people to join. Mostly because I don't have any caravans in my area to rob right now. So I just don't have that money, man. You gotta have the money. Yes, some of us pay you. Yes. And thank you very much for your membership. I do appreciate it. So,
Professor
yeah.
Yaffle, you are a young budding Muhammad. So you've figured out how to pay people to get what you want because you want this content. You pay Eric for it, and then he produces more of it. So you're a young budding Muhammad there.
Almost like, Muhammad was the first capitalist. That's what you're making him sound like, except capitalism is he's willingly giving me his money, not that I'm threatening to kill him, or in this case, her. I'm not threatening to kill her for the last 12 months, so she gives me the $2 or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He said suddenly my message disappeared. I didn't do it. Sometimes YouTube's a bit of a pain. So if you try to share a link, that would do it. But if not, I don't know.
Yeah, they just don't like you very much. Or
probably not.
Now, to be fair, I don't think that YouTube is necessarily like intentionally targeting Christians or something. They just don't care enough to like actually have proper moderation. So their tactic is to shut down as many people as possible because that's very cheap in comparison to human moderation. So their bot or their algorithm, or however you want to describe it exactly, it just shuts down anything that has often been flagged as offensive. And well, Muslims probably find comments similar to yours, not necessarily even your comments, but just comments similar to yours offensive. And then YouTube's like, hey, this person keeps making offensive comments. Let's shut them down.
I don't know. Do you get the Muslims claiming that, oh, you deleted my comments? How dare you delete my comments? You can't handle the truth.
And I will say that I've seen like much, much older YouTube videos, like from 5-10 years ago. And there's plenty of comments that are like overt threats. Those never make it through now. So it's not just that they're blocking Christians, right? I do not normally get death threats from Muslims. You have to try really, really hard to word it to get past the filter. But the Muslim, they leave that comment. They don't see it. They leave a threatening comment. They don't see it. And they say that you deleted it. when you've in fact never seen it because YouTube blocked them as well. So it's not just Christians. They block all kinds of comments. And the reason they do this, among other things, is that one of the main problems they have as a platform is just creators of all types getting negative comments from people who are just assholes, saying you're ugly and your content sucks and whatnot. And for a lot of people, this affects them and they don't want to post content anymore, which hurts YouTube. So that's the real motive. But indirectly, because Muslims have such sensitive feelings, it ends up blocking a lot of comments that are not of that nature and are just you saying facts about Islam.
Yeah, I mean, I still get the hell is for you, how dare you comments, and my face looks like a goat, or my voice looks. Oh no, I had a comment on a YouTube video that was my voice sounds like that of a goat. I said, well, I have eaten the Quran, so you might have a point there. Just saying, you seem to have you might actually have a slight point there. They never replied to me. I don't know why. They didn't like my response.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a shame. I would actually like to get those comments from Muslims, but a lot of them do end up getting blocked, especially if they have a very angry tone. Like if it's just insulting, it can get through, but if it's like very angry, it almost never gets through. Like, yeah, I wish you would die type comments that those never get through. And it's a shame because I'd really like to laugh at those comments.
Now, some of them do get through, but they go through the censored part. So you have to go under like, and I've done that with some comments. I'll have Muslims claim, "Oh, you delete my comments. I proved you wrong, and you deleted my comments." And I look under what the YouTube has sent me as censored comments, and I don't see anything from them. So either they're lying on that, or well, YouTube's deleting them, not letting me even know that they're there. And I would appreciate knowing, honestly speaking. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm open to critique. I'm open to be critiqued. And the fact that I find most of the critiquing funny, if it's coming from that sort of angle, well, that's just, icing on the cake.
Yeah, I will say that I've never blocked a Muslim without multiple warnings and very good cause. I mean, I have like just straight up blocked like some spam bots that are like, go to this website or something like, but as far as like Muslim commenters, I've never blocked anyone without extensive attempts to get them to behave. But if someone's just coming into every live stream and just spamming over and over again the same message, I mean, I can only tolerate it so long because it's affecting everyone's viewing experience when they're putting the same comment in 20 times in 2 minutes. I mean, I got to do something. But it's not because I'm afraid of them or whatever.
No, it's almost if you were afraid of them or something, you would definitely never go on an open Q&A live stream that they could just click a simple button, join, not even needing camera, just need a microphone, and ask you any question in their minds. You would never, ever do anything like that. That would be like counterproductive if you were scared of answering any questions.
I know. It's weird. We're scared to death of Muslims or Muslim apologists or whatever. Yet we're constantly asking them to come and talk to us. Meanwhile, people like, say, Saif says in his video description or his channel description, I am interested in open dialogue with people of different faiths. And then you ask him politely to come on my channel, or if my channel's not big enough for him, on David Wood's channel, and he just ignores it.
Oh, Saif. I know you like us talking about you because you keep posting anything that's ever said about you ever on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, he responded to some, like, I made a video challenge. I tagged him. other people started putting in his comment section the challenge, and he responded to some of them like with Alhamdulillah, this will happen, or something like that. Well, apparently Allah did not will it. Sorry, he said, Inshallah, this will happen. And I guess Allah didn't will it because it has never happened. He also said that he would respond to all 100 of my reasons. And it's been like, I don't know, 6 months, and he hasn't even taken up part 2 yet, when it's going to take him about 11 or 12 parts to respond to all of my reasons. Not that he actually responded to any, but he at least made a video covering, I think, 7 of them. And he said he was going to do all of them. And instead, he's making videos on like whatever news story he sees that day that he thinks he can get views about. Strangely enough.
Saif, just to let you know, 8 is less than 100. Just in case there was an additional error somewhere in there. No, you didn't cover them all yet. I would love to see, in fact, hey, I got a notification when it happened. I got a notification from you when you did it for Thaddeus over here. I was like, oh, cool. I wonder if he's got any good points. And then I watched them, and I about died laughing on the last one. Because, holy cow, that was bad.
My personal favorite statement of that video is when he prefaces his comments by saying, if I understand him correctly, and then attempts to summarize my argument and says something completely and totally unrelated to anything I said at all. It's like, Saif, I know that's not what you thought I said. That's just the only thing that you could respond to. So you changed what I said and pretended that's what I said. And that's why you only showed 2 seconds instead of the sentence that came directly before the one you played, which would have shown that it is not at all what I was saying.
Well, face it, they do that with the Bible too, right? They'll take one section out of context. I had someone on there arguing, saying, oh, you can't have any idols at all. Nothing in heaven or on earth, or you're violating, the commandment. I said, yeah, you can't have any idols. But he said any images at all, like, this little statue of a goat, right? You can't have that. You can't have that. I was like, took him to the verse. And I said, well, the verse before that will defeat you. Mm-hmm. And we go there, we read it. It's like, okay, it's putting it in context. Oh, look, it's talking about taking them as gods. Yeah, well, that doesn't work. Then, because last time I looked, I'm not worshiping this goat. But his same argument, because it says heaven, what's in heavens and on what is on earth, and he says nothing be made that way. So I pointed out to him, okay, what about the moon that's on some mosques? Is that wrong? Should they be banned for that? Is that violating this commandment according to him? He said, well, it doesn't count because they're not living animals. Where does it say living needs to be done? It doesn't say living at all. In fact, his issue was that they even have crosses at churches.
The moon is a living being.
Well, that is true.
But
that was split in half in the 6th century.
Yeah, was this on YouTube by any chance? Because I'm pretty sure that the YouTube content creators he's watching are living beings, and he's watching images of them.
He was calling in and talking to me live. So yes, he was talking to an image of me on his computer live.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. But you see, the issue is you're using too much logic on that. Way too much logic.
Yeah, I do have to admit that logic is definitely haram.
Well, I think we might have gave him about half an hour on TikTok. We gave him 2 hours on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not impressed, Muslims. I'm not impressed at all. You kept challenging me to debate, and I'm like, well, I know this cool guy called Thaddeus. I can bring him along too, and throw him in there. And who knows? Maybe they'll be able to stump him as well. And you guys don't show up.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe next time we'll just have to like apply some sort of filter to make everything look like cartoons for little kids, because that seems to be the level that they want to appeal to. So maybe if we make everything like cartoony and play some really simple children's music in the background, maybe then they'll feel more comfortable.
Well, maybe, maybe I picked the wrong time. You see, I picked when they started their 2-hour prayer session on Saturdays, because they all have to be doing that at 6 p.m. EST. They're all doing their 2-hour prayer session, and they need to make sure to do it. Well, that doesn't work so well, but hey, next week, guys, prove to me that Muhammad is a true prophet of God, the true God, and I'll convert to Islam tomorrow. I'm not tomorrow, next week. And in fact, you guys will be redirected there after this live stream is done. Thaddeus, is there anything you would like to plug before we say adios to these fine people?
Sure. If Muslims are too afraid to come and prove that Muhammad was a true prophet or Islam is the truth to you, tomorrow they have the opportunity of just giving me a video link. Maybe you think that I'm a demon or influenced by Shaitan or whatever. Well, guess what? You give me a video link, I'm going to play it for my audience. There'll be at least a couple thousand people probably who watch that video. So you'll have the opportunity to put that Dawah video out to thousands of people. Regardless of what you think about me, there's surely going to be people watching who would be receptive to it. So just give that to me tomorrow. Right now, I got to post a community post up asking for videos. If I don't get any, then the YouTube algorithm's going to tell me what to watch. But either way, I'm going to watch Dawah videos, play them for my audience straight through, not skipping 1 second of the video. Unless like there's an ad at the end or something, I might skip an ad. I don't know. But all the content, right? All the actual argument in the video straight through, and I'll be reacting to it live. I won't have pre-scanned it, come up with my lies about it or whatever, right? Just live reaction. And you can put that out to all my Christian audience. And just think of all the souls you can win for Allah by doing that. So this is your opportunity. Tomorrow, probably 1 p.m. Eastern time. Haven't 100% settled on the time. But again, you don't actually have to show up and be there. You just have to tell me the name of the video. So do that, please. Please give me some videos to watch, because I don't want to be accused of like cherry picking easy to watch videos or easy to respond to videos. Give me the best video you have ever seen that you find to be the most convincing for Islam. And again, even if I'm a hard-hearted, disgusting individual, doesn't matter, because all the audience will see it too.
And that is over on Reasoned Answers.
Yep, that'll be on Reasoned Answers tomorrow.
Make sure you guys check that out. That sounds fantastic. Actually, it sounds like a lot of fun. I'm going to check that out. That sounds like fun. So I will see any cool people there in the comments section tomorrow on Reasoned Answers as he goes through the best Dawah videos, according to Muslims, ever. Don't miss these epic arguments tomorrow. And as always, whenever anyone talks about Islam and animals now, this is my reaction.
Brother,